drives one in the air. Deep right field. It's got a chance. Grand slam. Way back it might be. It could be. Cubs win. Cubs win. Cubs win. Holy cow.
The Dingers podcast is on the air. I'm your host, Mitch. Mike and Ian, how are you guys doing tonight?
I'm great.
Short and sweet.
Great.
I'm doing great. I got a new piece of wood in the hands here. If you're watching on YouTube, if you're not watching on YouTube, I'll let you interpret that however you'd like.
Yeah, it's creepy.
I will say though, I've never put one of these like lizard skins bat grips on.
They're nice.
Yeah, but man, they are like, you can't see, the stream doesn't do it justice, but man, it's tough to get that thing like done. Like, look at all those wrinkles in this is great audio. I also had to buy a 32-inch because they didn't have the 33-inch in the model that I wanted. This is a bamboo Mizuno. I've been using bamboo for a while, and I really like the whippiness of it. But you know what? We're gonna try a 32 this year and see how it goes. Mitch, how are you doing, man?
You need some pine tar on that bat.
I don't know. I got well, no free ads, but I got Bruce Bolts, so I got the Cabretta leather. So I think
we need to hit Bruce up.
Yeah, I would love to get some Bruce Bolts. But I mean, even when I would, I still, even with batting gloves, would still need. I like pine tar. I like the smell of pine tar.
Yeah.
But I'm doing good. I mean, Earth Day today. I feel like
I got my Love Your Mother shirt on.
Ooh, that's nice.
I do feel like it's an excuse for schools. Well, I know, at least for mine, it was a way for our school to get free labor out of kids to weed eat and pick up stuff around the campus. So, I mean, free labor day for a lot of schools, because that's what my school did. But yeah,
we did that as kids though. Like, we did weeding and stuff for, what would be considered free at this point.
I was like, it's janitor's day off day. That's really what it is.
Yeah.
And,
Good, they work hard.
But for mine was we did Earth Day at our school, which is really funny because I walk out and our principal's like chopping down trees, like cutting down like these like trees that are growing behind that they're small and they are just invasive to where they were. But he's like cutting down trees. I was like, wait a minute, shouldn't we be planting trees, not cutting down trees on Earth Day? But whatever.
No, I will say I have an environmental studies degree, and it is just as important to cut down and take out invasive plants as it is to plant indigenous plants, because invasive plants, this is a baseball podcast for remind everybody, but really quickly, if you see PSAs about invasive plants or animals, do your part, because you're going to help your local environment.
That's
there
true.
You go.
Every Christmas we cut down a tree in the local forest, and it helps Colorado prevent, forest fires. So
there we go.
Natural trees are better for the environment than plastic trees.
Well, I did my job because this weekend I cut down like 50 cedar trees because we're going to use them as fence posts.
So that's cool.
Yep,
that's very cool. That's very
maybe you could fashion a new bat for Jake too.
Oh, I did think about.
Yeah,
I should if I can make a baseball bat out of one of these.
Yes. Yes. I like it.
Now you got it. Now that you've said it, you got to do it.
I'll try it.
That'd be so sick.
But yes, this is a baseball podcast. This is a Cubs podcast. Cubs just got done playing 4 games against the Marlins. We'll get into that split series. Tough one there. And now they're inviting Houston in. So they're going to have 3 games with Houston and then go out to Boston and play the Red Sox. So got a lot to talk about. A lot of good and a lot of not so good that we are going to discuss. I have heard that Ian has been getting really hot and then really excited about things. So I'm really interested to hear his takes on things. And when I said, hey, what are the main topics we want to cover tonight? Ian just said pitching, and so he wants to discuss pitching. So, Ian, do you want to start with the bullpen or do you want to start with the starters?
I think I used definitely some more colorful language when I talked about the
You
pitching,
did.
but this is a family podcast. So long as Jeff is not here.
True.
No, I think we have to start with the starters in this situation. The bullpen is not news to anyone. It was an issue, last year. It's continuing to be an issue this year. But the biggest problem to me, and Craig Counsell hit it on the head the other day in his post game conference, was we need more innings out of our starters. He's not wrong. Like the bullpen is an issue because the starters can't consistently get enough innings. So we're operating with a bullpen that's entirely gassed for a majority of what we're seeing right now. That doesn't exclude their own issues, but the starters, there's, barring Justin Steele, his health, his injury, thankfully it sounds like his recovery is going well, introducing some throwing sessions, which is great. But outside of the starters, we had one really good start from JMO, and then three starts from Shota that have been legitimately good. I mean, that's tough. That is hard to overcome when your starting rotation has to be a lot better. Your margin for error is so small right now. And it just goes to show that, everyone in the offseason, from the fan contingent, from the armchair manager contingent, were correct. They were absolutely correct when it came to, we need at least one more arm rotation. We need at least one more. And we're seeing that now. We're seeing what that looks like. And Mitch, you have said this. You called this really early on. Kyle may not last the whole season. He's just having a hard time right now. He can't last 5. It's been rough, and for the past few years he's had to be a 1 or a 2. There was a year where people treated him like an ace, but Kyle at this point realistically in his career is probably a 4, maybe a 5. That was long-winded, but I've been hot about the pitching all week. It's been rough.
Yeah, for me, we get JMO back, and he gave us 5 the other day, which I was thrilled to see him go 5, because you have to remember, he only had 2 starts. I think they rushed him back, and I was nervous. I was like, okay. Anytime you have like a back injury, it's like I don't want it to be a lingering thing, just like an oblique. I don't want it to be a lingering thing. And it's like I was nervous that we were gonna rush him out there and we're trying to get too much out of him because we need him. But I thought 5 was like perfect amount. He got us what we needed as far as innings, and he pitched really, really well. So that's the one, like, okay, when I look at the starters going forward a little bit, I have to feel somewhat good because he's pitched well, and we've gotten a lot more out of Assad than we would expected. I mean, it goes back to even last year. He gave us more than we would have expected out of him, and he continues to do that. And it has been great. It's the others. It's the Hendricks and whatever we've tried to fill in Steele's injury, whether that be Ben Brown, which Ben Brown has pitched great the last couple times he was a starter, and great out of the bullpen. It was the one shaky one, and then so it's just getting some consistency out of our starters, and mainly Kyle Hendricks. And so that leads me to my question of, like, what do we do with Kyle Hendricks? First 2 outings, horrible. The other day, was it yesterday? Did he pitch yesterday? Yesterday on Sunday. I saw some things that I liked out of Hendricks. ball was moving more. I was telling Jake even pre-show, like I went back even live during the game. I was watching some 2016 highlights just to see, is his ball moving like it was in 2016? Because I didn't see that in his first couple outings, and he was missing his spots. And on Sunday, I was like, okay, is this just the Marlins, or is he back to kind of finding his groove? He did look a little bit more promising. Did he still give up 4 earned runs? One was off a costly error by Dansby. One was a misplay out in the outfield, but it's still 4 earned runs that right now we can't really afford. Like, he hasn't given us a shot to win games. And that was what Kyle has done for so long, just kept us in games. So that's my concern is he's not keeping us in games. What's your thought, Jake?
Yeah, there's always a narrative, right, that Kyle's a slow starter. April's a tough month for him. This is admittedly way worse than we've seen. I mean, I don't necessarily think that people are overreacting in that sense, in terms of specifically saying, oh, this is worse than it usually is, because it is. But I am far from ready to say that he's done and he's broken. I mean, his velocity is fine. He hasn't. It's not like he's lost 4 miles per hour off of his fastballs. I'm looking right now. The thing that's interesting, it looks like his 4-seamer break and his sinker break, he's not getting the horizontal movement on them that he needs to. Look at the vertical really quick. Vertical's the same, so it's getting the same amount of, the sinker's getting the same amount of drop. Changeup's getting the same amount of drop. Fastball looks the same. So there's something left to right that's a little bit off, and that could be enough to. We know that he needs to be pinpoint to be effective, and you can see, like, you watch where Amaya sets up in his starts, and you know that where Amaya is setting up is where the pitch is supposed to go. So I saw some great pitches from Kyle in terms of hitting his spots yesterday. It was yesterday. Yeah. So some great pitches, but I saw a lot of like bad misses as well. I actually don't remember if that Jesus Sanchez pitch was it had to have been a miss. Well, it didn't have to be a miss necessarily, but the last thing I'll say is we're digging into my nerdy metrics here. Hard hit percent, 31.7. That's actually right at his career, like right about his career average of 31%. Strikeout rate is 15.1. Last year was 16.1 when he was in like the sweet spot of his career in his late 20s. He was getting around 20 or 21. I don't expect Kyle to be a strikeout pitcher anymore. Not that he ever really was. But I think the alarming thing right now is his walk rate at 6.6%, when his career mark is 5.5. So I expect that to come down. And finally, the batting average on balls in play, like, he's clearly giving up a lot of soft contact. He's not giving up a ton of barrels. The BABIP is 392, which is really, really high. I mean, his career BABIP is 283. So we're looking at a 110 point difference. So looking at all of those metrics, it's clear that, to me, that Hendricks isn't getting the same horizontal break that he needs to. There's probably something off a little bit mechanically. I'm sure, Lance Brozdowski or Brendan Miller, who are more knowledgeable about pitching mechanics, have or will break this down. Especially, I would say, like, keep an eye out if Kyle gets things straightened out in his next start. Those guys will break down what he did to make those changes. But yes, there's a little bit of sentimentality to it, but I just don't think Hendricks has been there. He's given bulk. He knows how to go deep into a season. He knows how to condition himself. I think he's a great veteran to have around, especially as we're looking to bring up young guys this season. Yes, you said a 4 or 5. I think that's what to expect from him, and I think that he'll get there. I think that he'll be dependable, and I'm fine with giving him a bit of a longer leash.
I guess, like, how many more starts are you willing to give him? That's where I get concerned, because obviously our division has some problematic teams. I trust that the Pirates will pirate. The Brewers started off well enough to make me a little bit concerned. I anticipate their magic to wear off a little bit come the summer, but how many more starts? It is impressive that the Cubs beat the Dodgers to 13 wins. To me, that's showing that, like, yes, there are some managerial decisions that are correct here. But especially with the injury bug that bit this team so early on in the season, but how many more starts are you willing to give him to right the ship? I guess that's where my tolerance.
Rhetorical, or do you want,
I mean, you could answer it rhetorically or you could answer it honestly.
I think it's reasonable to give him a couple more starts. I mean, if you look specifically in division, pitching injuries. I mean, the Brewers have injuries. They're gonna have to call up a minor leaguer. DL Hall just went on the IL for them, and he wasn't even pitching well. That's kind of like a reliever to starter experiment that they're doing. DL Hall was drafted as a starter with the Orioles, moved to a reliever because his control is kind of iffy, and it hasn't worked so far for him in Milwaukee. So Milwaukee's rotation is kind of decimated. The Pirates, I think that's where you have to look in terms of how serious we are about taking Kyle out of the rotation. I think it could go. I think you could look at when the Pirates call up Paul Skeens and add him to the rotation. That's like the Pirates saying, all right, it's business time. And they've been scuffling a little bit lately, so it could happen sooner than later. But when they call up Skeens, that's when the Cubs have to put the pedal to the metal, put the foot on the gas.
I give Skeens 2 more starts in the minors, and he's up.
I think so too.
Well, yeah, let's all get balloons.
Ian still can't get the balloons.
I can't get balloons. It's my micro. It's because my micro. Okay, wait.
Bummer.
StreamYard just hates me.
I think that's right, Mitch. I think that it's been talked about around the league that this is making money for Indianapolis, the AAA team, that they get to bring fans in to see Skeens. At the same time, too, like they're limiting his workload the same way that they limited Jarrett Jones in his last outing with like 56 pitches in 5 innings, 7 strikeouts, and fans were like, why'd you pull this guy?
Because they want him during September to make
right.
the play. Like
totally. Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, and that's the correct answer. So yeah. And like, I don't know. I mean, do we want to get into other options in the rotation? Like, cause I mean, I'll pose the question to you guys. If you take Hendricks out of the rotation, what's the corresponding move to fill that spot?
Outside of a call up, it's not pretty right now.
Right. There are not options.
Right.
The hard thing for me is I would be willing to give Hendricks starts, especially when Steele comes back. I would be totally willing to give those starts to Ben Brown. The only thing right now is Ben Brown has proved really valuable in the bullpen. And without him in the bullpen, there isn't many trusted arms that can give you some pretty good innings. And so that's where it's like you run into that. It's too early to talk Cade Horton. It's too early to talk really anybody else. So that's where it's like, yeah, we are limited. So it's going to have to be somebody step up or Hendricks figure it out pretty quick.
Yeah. No, I'm right there with you. It's too early for Cade. And I land on the same instance with you as just the other day. You see how valuable Ben is eating up a couple innings for the bullpen. As a high velocity thrower, I mean, I felt like very confident in how the game was going to end at that point. I was like, okay, this is great. But yeah, the options are not great. I mean, and I think we're all of the same mindset. We all scour Twitter kind of the same amongst Cubs Twitter. There's a lot of, how do we get somebody right now to help come and alleviate some of these issues? And I don't know what that arm looks like and who it is. Obviously I've been a champion for him, but almost on a sarcastic level of Mason Miller. It's great. Jake and I have talked about it. I love how hard he throws, but I'm also concerned that arm is going to explode like in the next 5 minutes at this point.
Well, let's touch on that really quick, because I have thoughts on Ben Brown, but like let's jump around here a little bit since you brought up Mason Miller. I closed it out. One of our colleagues at On Tap wrote about Mason Miller and trade speculation. The Cubs should jump the market and go get Mason Miller. It is not going to happen. That is not a move that Jed's going to make. Mason Miller is I'm just saying I know I'm saying for any Cubs fans listening, like, Mason Miller is a flashy name for sure. And I wouldn't be surprised if he gets traded somewhere. I also wouldn't be surprised if he stays in Oakland, because he's, I think, 24 years old. He has the potential to be a top 5, top 3 closer in the league. But there's also the fact that he was a starting pitcher. So this season could be a way for them to artificially limit his workload so that next season they try him out in the rotation again, or whenever they feel that it's right that, to stretch him back out and give him a heavier workload. But funny enough, I was at the record store the other day and I saw this guy wearing a Reds hat, and, we started talking baseball. He's a big fantasy baseball player, and I don't know how Mason Miller came up, but we were talking about it. And he mentioned Mason Miller has type 1 diabetes, and he also, this is an Athletic article, he also has a screw in his right elbow from a youth baseball injury. So, yeah, I mean, you would assume that a screw in the elbow from youth baseball by now is pretty set in there. But, like, Ian, you make the point, like, his arm exploding. It's like, yeah, when you're throwing 103.7 or whatever it is, and there's a screw holding things together in there, like, yeah, maybe actually it could explode. So it's like, the Cubs would have to give up so much to get this guy.
Yeah.
And I'm not like, this is not any, I do not know much about diabetes. But I mean, I know that there's got to be something in there with stamina, right? And like keeping your diet right so that you can continue to, I'm kind of talking out of my ass. If there are any diabetics that listen to this podcast, please correct me. I want to make sure that we have this correct. But I remember when Jay Cutler got diagnosed with diabetes when he was on the Bears. Like, the dude, he got everything right, and then he was, fine from a stamina standpoint. But, like, I don't know, that you're asking this guy to throw 100+ as a starter potentially down the line.
Yeah.
In the summer, in the heat of the summer. So I don't know. I just think the risk is not worth the cost. That's very, very long-winded way of saying that.
Do you know who Miller debuted against?
Wasn't it us?
About it, but you.
The Chicago Cubs. He lost 12-2.
Woo. Bust.
Yeah.
Don't get that guy.
I think it just goes to show, though, like, we all clamored for the need for additional arms, whether in this rotation or, I think there was a really strong contingent of people. I think, Jake, you were one of them. Mitch, you might have even been one that were like, Emmanuel Clase, like, make the move, pull it. Like, come on, Jed, like, do it. Like, Unfortunately, that's aging poorly with how the Cleveland looks great. It's the power of friendship.
Yeah.
But I don't know where the solution is going to come from now, because the resources that you thought you could get are suddenly seemingly very valuable to the teams to which they represent and are on currently. And so, yeah, I guess you're hoping that when Justin comes back, things kind of right the ship and kind of self-correct a little bit. But yikes. Right now it's yikes.
Yeah, big yikes. Mitch is frozen. I don't know if he can you hear him right now? You see him?
I can see
there
him.
He is.
Yeah. He's here. He's with us.
Might just be my crappy Wi-Fi.
Yeah. I want to bring up Hayden Wesneski. Could he got called up. He pitched really well in his innings that he finished out. Who was that against? Who's that against? Arizona.
Yeah.
Arizona finished pitching like 3 or 4 innings really, really well, and they got sent right back down. And I know they're trying to lengthen him out as a starter. Is he an option, or do you see him? I could see him filling in more as the bullpen arm and Ben Brown, but the way that Ben Brown's been pitching out of the pen, like maybe Wesneski fills that role, or no. I just want to bring up Wesneski because he'd be the next guy in line, I would say, to be able to get that start.
I'll just quickly say that at this point, I'm fine with trying anything. And
yeah,
Wesneski, I mean, look, his debut for the Cubs in 22 was by the metrics legit. I mean, something happened mechanically, confidence, whatever it was. Something happened last year that he just could not get right. Is that one of your buddies in the comments, Ian?
Yeah, he's a Rockies fan. He sent me, he's been listening. He goes, "You guys should be talking about the Rockies."
Yes. Can y'all take Chris Bryant back?
No, we have enough. We have enough injured players right now.
He's still in his prime. He's still in his prime. I mean, yeah. If they want to eat the contract, sure, send them back over here.
Yeah.
We'll just toss him on the IL. I think that Wesneski. Look, it's well documented that he's got a platoon issue against lefties. What's he throwing this year? His pitch mix. I mean, he's thrown 2 changeups, so you can't really gauge anything off of that.
Still a 2-pitch pitcher.
Yeah, I mean, look, his changeup percentage, 2023, 4.9%. Like, it's clearly not a pitch that he's comfortable with. But if that's something that he can develop to throw against lefties, like that's a big deal. And but I'll quickly say too, Ben Brown has that same issue, you guys. Like, Ben Brown is also a 2-pitch guy. And again, being a nerd, I know some people don't like Baseball Savant, but there are a lot of metrics out there that can help you predict like how a pitcher is going to perform beyond that. I'll plug Pitcher List. Like, Pitcher List has some great data out there as well. I don't know if Ben Brown is. I think it's kind of smoke and mirrors right now. Like, the fastball looks good, but it's getting crushed when batters hit it. I mean, he is getting lit up, and I feel like
if he works,
he's just gotten lucky that they've been hit at people.
And I've noticed, like, if he works up in the zone and hits his spot, he's good. But if he's down at all, like, it's almost like his ball doesn't get ride, and so it levels out, and so it just, like, guys' eyes just light up because they're like,
it's the same thing with Shota. Yeah, same thing with Shota.
Yeah,
I mean, that's what Shota has to do to curb the home. He doesn't have a home run issue right now, although I expect that once the weather warms up and the wind's blowing out, we'll see some we'll see a rough outing or 2 or 3 from Shota. Like, expect that. But yeah, I think you're right, Mitch. Keeping that fastball up in the zone, like that's the trend right now.
Yeah.
Yep.
What do you guys think about Wes? I mean, do you guys feel good about Wesneski being stretched out?
I mean, I liked his showing the other day. I thought it was great.
I just need to see more
Yeah.
of this year's version of Wesneski. Like, who is he? Like, one outing doesn't tell me enough. I would love to have the stats on hand of how he's done at Iowa. I just don't have those.
Yeah. I can pull those up really quick. So I've got him here. His first outing, 3 innings, 2 hits, 2 strikeouts. His second outing, 3 1/3, 4 hits, 3 earned runs, 2 walks, 4 strikeouts. And then April 12th, 4 1/3, 3 hits, 1 walk, 4 strikeouts. So solid.
Yeah.
I mean, solid.
That's consistency that for all of his, appearances in Chicago last year, that was not the case. Like, he was a disaster.
But the thing is, you've seen with all those outings, it's like 3 innings, 3 innings, 3 innings. Like, and
right.
Ian, you brought up the beginning, like, we need starters to eat some innings. They need to pitch past the 5th inning. Like, we need to get guys in the 6th inning at least.
Right.
And if we're looking at Ben Brown or Wesneski, that's not getting that done.
Right.
And we're saying that because our bullpen is in shambles and where it's at right now, where you have one guy down there that you really trust. Like, I right now, I only trust Leiter. Like, there's nobody else that, like, whenever they're entering the game, if it's not Leiter, like, I'm like, like, I don't know if this lead's gonna hold. Like, do we have enough? Like, the thing is, our offense has been strong. I would say pretty strong to start the year. That's kept us in games or won us games just because our offense has got us a big enough lead. Or so yeah, that's where.
And that's,
what do we do with the pen?
That's concerning. It's, and like you said, like, it would be nice if our starters would occasionally get into the 6th, but right now we're hoping they get to the 5th. There's been some appearances where you're just like, oh my gosh, like, you're rocking 60, 70 pitches end of the 4th right now, or at 3 1/3. Like, what are we doing here?
And I would say that opposing teams know right now, because our bullpen is in shambles. Like, what do you need to do to beat the Cubs? Get the starting pitchers pitch count up and just get to their bullpen, because they're both like, that's the game right now. Like, I would say that's what the Rockies did to win. It was like, just get the starter out, get to the bullpen. They're gonna be shaky.
This is man. Yeah. I mean, as of right now, I'm just, I think what Jake said kind of nails it on the head. I'm looking for it anywhere I can get it at this point. Like, any help that I can get from wherever I can get it is where I want it. And I've even gone so far as, like, okay, is there a chance that Carl can come up and eat some innings for someone at some point? Like, where's the solution? So I'm looking for it anywhere at this point.
Yeah. I will say, I think that Hector Neris will eventually figure it out, just because he has a track record to prove that he can figure it out.
Yeah.
I think he's just struggling. He's all pitchers, relief pitchers, all pitchers go through a stretch where they struggle, but he's seasoned enough where I think he's going to figure it out and then be a dude in the 8th. So, like, I'm not necessarily long-term concerned about him. There's others that I'm long-term concerned. Right now, in the short term, like you said, we need some guys that can give us some solid innings, like, and build some trust in there, because there's none of them right now.
Well, and part of this is, I kind of expressed this the other day. Just the way this roster is constructed currently right now shows that even a manager as good as Craig Counsell can only do so much with a roster that is as talent deficient in some areas as this roster currently is.
Mm-hmm.
Did you hear his interview the other day? Like he even like admitted, like I've never had.
Yeah, Ian sent it to me. Yeah.
I've never had to deal with a bullpen like this where I don't have two dudes down there at the like a guy that you can like boom, it's done. Like
right.
And I mean, even if he was still with Milwaukee, they have nobody right there now anyway, because one of them's gone and the other one's injured. So even if he stayed in Milwaukee, he'd still be dealing with the same issue. He's just with the Cubs. And yeah,
but even there, guess who they have at the back end of the bullpen?
I don't even know
who old friend Trevor McGill.
Yep.
And he's pumping a hunch. Like he's a closer candidate. Like really quickly, Trevor McGill, Alex Lang, former Cubs farmhand, in recent years, Pierce Johnson, I think on the Padres was a former Cub.
Guy for Tampa Bay, stud. What's his name?
Yeah. Shoot. Well, Jason Adam?
Yeah, Jason
Adam.
Stud. Like he's been lights out.
Like there are all these guys, but that just I mean, like bullpen arms it's a fickle thing, right? Like it's one. I mean, look at what Keegan Thompson's gone through.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden he's back. And I think it was Greg Zumock posted that posted some really great stats that it's something like I don't remember if it was ex-WOBA or what it was, but the threshold for Keegan's success is a fastball over 94. Like if his fastball is consistently averaging over 94 miles an hour, he's set. If it's under, he's getting shelled. Which like what a funny threshold that it's like. And I think it was down to like the tenth of a mile per hour that it made a difference.
Okay.
So yeah. So that's kind of funny, but
well, that must be like his ball must, the way he throws it must move more when it gets to that RPM, that like the rotation to be able to get it to move enough where if it doesn't, it levels out. Like it's crazy. Like that's some crazy, like,
and to Keegan's credit, he's been kind of great just in some pretty limited appearances. So if this is what we can expect from him, if you get Justin back and things are righted a little bit and, some of the pen arms can get a little bit of rest, maybe you stand a chance of a longer leash for Kyle beyond just 2 or 3 more starts. Maybe he does have, 4 or 5 more starts to try to really get it figured out. Maybe he has throughout the month of May. Like,
So with bullpen arms, if we want to go and get some more depth down the road, maybe not right now, but who should we be looking for? Like who is like a name you're like, okay, I would look at this one because they might be willing to trade. And this would be a guy that would be probably available and like within realistic possibility to go get. Do you have any names?
Well, I don't have a screw holding my arm together. I just have screws holding my knees together. So I'm good to go.
All right, you're in.
I can eat some innings. They won't be good, but I can eat them.
I've got 2. I tweeted about it. Mitch, you and I talked about it pre-show. Hunter Harvey of the Nationals. Right now they've got Kyle Finnegan, who is, I think we said is like second in the league in saves. He's closing games, but I think on paper, Harvey might actually be the better pitcher. But that's kind of one of those situations, like if it ain't broke. So I think Harvey's a guy that's been involved in potential trade conversations, not necessarily with the Cubs, but for the Nationals. And the Nationals, Harvey's 29 years old. I'm not saying that he's going to be the closer. I think he could be, I think he could be a middle tier closer. I don't know if he'd be like much better than Adbert. Maybe a little bit. Definitely considering Adbert's struggles, but I think that he's at least like a stopgap. Kind of what we need right now is a Steve Cishek. We need a guy that we can just burn out for a couple years. So Hunter Harvey's one for me. And on a team that I think will deal him because they are younger and I think still looking to get younger. And the Cubs have made trades with him. They traded for Candelario last year. So that's one. And then another team that the Cubs have made trades with in the past, Michael Kopech, Chicago White Sox.
So interesting.
Right down the road. Not my idea. When I posted the Hunter Harvey tweet, someone said they should get Michael Kopech tomorrow, and I was like, "That's interesting." I did not think about that, but the White Sox are unloading everything.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I don't hate the idea. I think
they've dealt with the White Sox too in the past. So
yeah. And to hit 85 decibel monks. No, maybe no one's making no, I don't. And also we can highlight that comment. Ben Brown is not going to be the closer. I don't. I think that his stuff is too volatile. I think that he's going to have splits issues. I think he can be a solid bullpen arm, but especially this early in his career, he's not going to be the closer. Same with people that are saying like, oh, Luke Little should be the closer. Luke Little should not be the closer. You need, like, yes, I understand that those guys have to get experience at some point, but it's too early for either one of them. You've got to go look outside the organization right now. And I think that Kopech and Harvey, hell, get both. Like I don't care. Like if this team is going to be competitive, get both of them.
How can we kind of backtrack a little bit, like, because we've brought up with the closer with Alzolay. How concerned are you with Alzolay? Because I look at it this. Really, he's only been damaged on the long ball. He's given up 4 home runs, 3 of them on sliders, 1 yesterday on a sinker. Like, his slider has not been as sharp this year. But he's also pitched well at times. Mm-hmm. And I mean, is it just bad luck, or do you think some bad pitching, or a little bit of both? Because I'm willing to give a little bit Alzolay the benefit of the doubt. Like,
yeah.
So I don't know. That's I'll leave it up to you guys.
Yeah, I mean, there's a longer history of success, just based on recency bias, I think, with Adbert, that I'm willing to give him the benefit of the doubt. Like, he just, he's been used quite a bit lately.
I'll say there's been 4 barreled balls against him this year, and those have been the 4 home runs.
Yeah. Oof.
That's what Baseball Savant. There's been 4 barreled balls.
There's a little bit of luck in that, I feel like. So we're 4 for 4 on barrel balls and home runs on Adbert.
Yeah, that's got to regress.
Yeah, there's no way. So every barrel ball's a home run right now? That's insane. No, I guess for me, it's one of those things where I think he definitely deserves the benefit of the doubt. This goes back to our starting rotation too. Our starting rotation is putting our bullpen in some impossible situations. Like, when just every so often you're just anticipating your starter not to be able to go 5, mentally, whether, yes, these guys are professionals, but mentally that's got to drain and wear on you a little bit as totally. An arm out of the pen. Yeah. You're like, here I go again, to where if I make one mistake.
Dude, him walking off the field after giving up that, crushed me.
Yeah.
He looked defeated and just screamed into his glove. And like, this is a guy that's like maybe the most positive dude on the team, pumps everybody up. Like
just a good dude.
Yeah. You know that's tough for him. What'd you say, Mitch? Did you say you had, there was a slider and a sinker?
3 sliders and 1 sinker have been the home runs.
Okay. So, someone tweeted out that like they thought that, so as pitchers are throwing sweepers, sliders, and cutters, and there are a lot of pitchers that have all 3 of them in their arsenal, or variations of 2 of them in their arsenals. One narrative that I've seen a lot on Twitter is guys losing a feel for a cutter and it mixing with their slider or with their sweep. Like they're starting to kind of like bleed together into one single pitch. So I'm not going to be able to describe this. Like I'm not going to read the numbers because this would be super boring to listen to. But if you go on Baseball Savant and you look at Adbert's pitch movement, and you look at the slider and sweeper specifically between this year and last year, the data is backing up that they're kind of starting to overlap or kind of bleed into each other a little bit. So like, let me see if I can just really quickly get one here. So like his sweeper last year had 34.5 inches of drop, and his slider had 32.2 inches of drop. The sweeper this year has 40, so six more inches of drop. Slider has the same. But the big thing is the inches of horizontal movement. The slider is moving a little bit more, and the sweeper is moving the same. So like the horizontal movement, while the vertical drop is a little bit more, the horizontal movement is the same. And I think that's probably where they're kind of like, I don't know. This is the kind of like granular stuff that I'm not super good at picking apart, but I think there's something in there that the horizontal movement is looking similar, and they're just not distinct enough pitches that he can trust them to do the things that he needs them to do to fool the batter and set his pitches up the way they need to be.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that's boring stuff. But like, I think that there is something there.
It's not, but you're right. There is something there. I just oh, you said something and then it like slipped me. How you?
Well, my thought is what pitches, because if they are looking similar, and he throws a 4-seamer, a cutter, sinker, he's thrown a sweeper 4 times this year. What pitch is he trying to play off of it? And then if he's throwing a slider and then he comes with a cutter and they're working kind of similar, it's not really getting the batter to have to make an adjustment. Especially when I saw the other day, I can't remember who he was pitching to, but he was trying to hit the outside corner, and one just got he threw one and it got called a strike, and it was right on the edge. And then he went a little bit further out and it got called a ball. So he was trying to find the line of where the umpire was at. And then his next pitch, he was trying to go back there, but caught way more of the plate, and that's the one that got hammered. So it was like he was trying to work the line of like, okay, where's this ump calling this outside corner pitch? Because he needs this slider to work in there. But then on his third pitch, caught way too much, and that's when it got hit hard.
So Scott just nailed what I wanted to say.
Yeah. Scott said to sum up what I was trying to say. His movement isn't fooling anyone. Need to do a better job at sequencing. And I think to kind of so it's looking closer at these numbers. It's his cutter and slider based off of what you said, Mitch. That made me look at the cutter. It's his cutter and slider that are too similar this year. So his cutter is averaging 5.8 inches of horizontal movement, when last year it was 3.7. That's a significant difference, especially considering his slider last year was 6 inches And the cutter this year is 5.8. The slider this year is 7. So the slider's moving a little bit more and kind of bleeding into the sweeper range a little bit. But more importantly, the cutter is breaking a little bit too much and maybe kind of bleeding into that slider. And it's flat. It's flat. It's 23 or flatter, 23.3 inches of drop versus the slider's 32.8. So if it's just, especially against right-handed batters, if you're trying to throw that cutter and it's staying flat, where's it breaking into a hitter's bat path? Right into the barrel. If it's not dropping and it's just cutting a little bit too much and that batter's coming through, it's going to cut right into the barrel. So yeah, as we said, the slider is an issue, but yeah, as Scott says, the sequencing, it's throwing off the sequencing. So I'm not Lance Brozdowski, but I'm doing my best out here.
Not love it. Well, we've talked a ton of pitching and we've been 51 minutes. So let's touch on Nico Hoerner, because let's hit a little bit of offense. Nico's back to being Nico, which is great. I feel like he's swinging at a lot more pitches, but he's barreling balls up a lot more and he's just making better contact. I think at the beginning of the season, that was his big struggle. It was a lot of swing and miss. I think timing was just off early in the season, just trying to find, I feel like he just, even in spring training, I felt like his timing was off. Now he's back on, barreling balls, getting doubles like crazy. Love to see that. You got to have that going. The big struggle with our offense when we've hit this little stride is with Seiya down and with Happer down in like Saturday's game. We threw out basically our B squad on Saturday, the first game of that. And you could see you miss the righty power of Hap from the right side and Seiya in that lineup when you have to go all righty, that there just isn't Canario, Cooper. Like, I mean, they have great sticks, even Wisdom coming in there, but it's different when you have Seiya. Like the slug is there, like more consistent, I would say. And so those injuries hurt this lineup, but Hap's out for the time being, and we have Nico batting lead off a little bit more. Do you see that being the thing later on, that we'll get more Nico in the leadoff spot, even when Hap comes back? What are your guys' thoughts?
I don't think it would be ill-advised to attempt the experiment. Ian hasn't necessarily been awful in the leadoff spot either, though. I mean, not shining like I would want, but hey, at least he's not batting third.
He does work counts and does take a lot of walks from the leadoff. So like that's
right.
One thing he does well.
Yeah, and so I would imagine that we will see maybe a healthier combination of maybe Nico occasionally, maybe Ian occasionally, maybe Craig doesn't strike me as someone who's willing to fall into habits.
Yeah,
very much.
He's going to play the matchups.
Yeah, he's. I texted Jake this yesterday when I was watching his post game. He's not emotional about any of these players. He doesn't like. I'm glad you don't like hitting off in 1 through 3, or if you want to be the cleanup hitter, so what? I don't care. I'm going to put you where I think is best. I think Ross maybe fell victim to being a little emotionally attached to some of these players at times. And I think we're seeing something very opposite.
You could see it in how Council talked about Hendricks. It's like, no, we got to be better. We can't be giving up 4 and run like we just can't like. And he was so like, yeah, it was like he was like he disconnected the relationship, and it's like, no, this is factual. Like, to win ball games and win a championship, we have to be better here. Where Ross would be like, he just talk different. I don't know what one's right or one's wrong, but like in this case right now, we want to win ball games. And so, yeah, you're hearing that out of council, and it's assuring us a little bit more as fans to listen and hear it. Yeah.
It's refreshing, actually.
Yeah. I think that is the way to look at it. I think that that's what fans want. Like, we want to win.
Yep.
We don't like if it doesn't hurt us, like it doesn't hurt me if Ian Happ is batting 6th or 7th, the team is winning. I don't care.
Right.
I agree with Scott. Keep Nico leading off. Happ needs to stay in the 6 or 7. Amaya needs to play 5 games a week. I completely agree. Amaya needs to be the ball catcher. He's a great defensive catcher. He's handling the staff well.
And he needs to move up in the batting order. I would be
potentially, but I don't know like who you make that swap with. And I really quickly want to address David Snyder here. Council is rather slow, it seems, making the necessary changes with this pitching staff. Hendricks has cost us at least 1 or 2 losses because he should have been demoted to the pen a week ago. First of all, David, Kyle Hendricks can't pitch out of the bullpen, unfortunately. He's not like that's a mop-up guy. So you're basically going back and you're in the same position that you already are. If you have Hendricks in the bullpen, he's coming in there because the starter didn't do a good job. Like the starter already lost the game, basically. Yeah. That's the most likely scenario. His stuff is not going to play in the bullpen. He's not a guy. You move a guy to the bullpen if he's got high velocity but doesn't know where the ball is going. That's right. The move that you make from a starter to a bullpen arm. And I think that like necessary changes with the pitching staff. David also said something about he saw that Alzolay was not fit to be a closer after his second blown save. You can't. I don't think you can make that change that early in the season, especially when the guy was the closer last year, and he was a solid closer last year. This has kind of been the problem with the Cubs in the past. I don't mean to get back into pitching. I want to get back to the lineup, but really quickly to address that comment. With the bullpen turnover that we've seen year after year, we're seeing this adjustment period every spring of trying to figure out where these arms slot in the mix. And it's so frustrating. We talked about it in preseason that this is an issue. And I said, hopefully with these young arms coming up, we're going to figure out where they slot in the bullpen, and we'll have a bullpen set in stone, or at least multiple pieces set for 2 or 3 years here. And now we're seeing like that may not happen. But no, I think that Council's done the right thing. He did the right thing sticking with Alzolay as long as he did, and I think Alzolay will find his way back into the closer role before the end of the season if there's not a trade made.
I will say one last thing is I think the injury to Merriweather has hurt this bullpen more than anything, because then it puts I feel like there were roles with guys earlier on, and when that injury happened, he wasn't quite right. You could tell something was off early in the season, but then it threw everybody into different roles, and they haven't figured out how to do it yet. And so it put us back into the problem that we had the last 3 seasons, where we've had all these bullpen arms trying to figure out where they best fit. And by the time they figure it out, it's almost a little too late. And so it hurts that injury.
It totally does. It has, and the bullpen has cost us games. There's no question about that. I want to wrap up like really quick, just talking about the lineup, because I think that I want Nico leading off as long as he stays hot, as long as he is getting on base. But like, then there's a question too, like we're talking about shaking things up, and we're mentioning that Council doesn't play favorites. He's not sentimental about these players. He wants to win. I could see something happen with the lineup where Happ comes back from injury. Council's adamant that Happ's the leadoff guy. Happ leads off. Saya's still out. Does Nico bat second? And then you move guys down in the order. You just like basically you shift the order down 1 until Saya gets back. Like I think it could make sense to see if Happ can get on base, lead off Happ, Nico second, Saya third, or Bellinger third, and then say a fourth. And I'm not really paying attention to handedness right now, but like that could be the top four, and then you got say a 4, and if Bush stays hot, you've got Bush 5, and then Mitch. If we want to appease you, we move Amaya up to the 6th spot.
And then Swanson 7.
Whatever, man. I mean, like,
sure, yeah, I don't care.
Dansby's looked, solid offensively here of late. So I don't know. I think this is a good thing that we're going to see Craig mix and match. And there are a lot of possibilities, especially considering that Hap and Seiya, our 2 starting corner outfielders, are out of the lineup right now. Like, when they come back, I'm going to be interested to see where they slot in, especially if the guys that are currently in the lineup keep hitting the way that they are.
I would actually love that lineup. Like,
yeah,
I'm trying to think if I have seen Hap lead off and Nico bat second ever. Like, going back to last year, the year before.
I don't know. I don't think Nico's batted second, but he puts the ball in play.
And like, just think about like that at the beginning of the game of like, you have Hap working a great at bat, because that's what he does. He does work a professional at bat every time.
Yep.
And then you have Nico, who's just like pesky, like, and good bat to ball
description. Yeah.
Good bat to ball skills. And it's like, then you have Belly after that. Like that, now you have the power coming. You have Bush, you have Seiya, like that's, as a pitcher, you're like, okay, I'm coming out there. I gotta work like right now. Like like it's not going to be an easy, smooth inning. Like there's guys that are going to make me 1 throw pitches. And I mean, I would love to see that play out, just to see what it would do to the pitching staff, the opposing pitching staff.
The one caveat here, and I've talked about this before, Hap has said that he does not like batting leadoff. I think he said it on the podcast.
It's not his choice.
But there's a mental piece to that. There's a mental piece. If you have in your head, for whatever reason, like, I like quoting A Tribe Called Quest here, getting stomach aches when you have to go to work. Like, you have this thing in your mind, like, and he has 72 plate appearances batting first this season already, which is kind of wild. He's got that many. Batting 197, 319, 279. So, and then in the sixth hole, only 11 plate appearances, but 333, 455, 333. So maybe he's not the leadoff answer. I do think that the mental game, like, that matters. That matters. And if he has it set in his mind for whatever reason that he doesn't want to bat leadoff, he's going to get more run there when he comes back. But I think Counsell, I don't think it's going to be a very long leash.
Yeah, I guess where I land on that is, sure, it definitely could be a mental thing, and that's fine if he doesn't like it. However, my thought process there is, all right, well, as a manager of a baseball team, find a way to get the most out of your player in the position that you put him in. And whether that's, him saying, I don't like batting leadoff, well, that leads me, that's a selfish statement. I get it. Yeah. Like, but if it works, it works. Like,
but it's not. But I don't think it's
not.
Is.
No, it's not right now. I mean, in the current, plate appearances that you have, but like, if it's just a mental shift, find a way to make that mental shift work for this team somehow. Like, and that goes to wherever he bats, that goes to wherever they bat.
I hated batting leadoff, and I batted leadoff in high school all the time. I hated it, but I was like, no, like, I have to for the team, because like I get on base and like, But when I got to college, I was a 2-hole hitter, and I loved that. Was like more my style, because like I was more of a contact slap hitter. Like, guy got on, like, I would punch it through the first base, second base hole, like, all the time. That was like my jam, hitting it between them two and getting the guy to third base.
Right.
But like, I can understand not liking it, but at the same time, like, Ian's gonna do what he believes is best for the team. And if Counsell believes that him in the leadoff is going to do it, he's going to do that for the team.
Right.
But I can get the mental hurdle thing. And I feel like Hap does approach his at-bats a little bit different when he is in the leadoff than when he is in the sixth hole.
I think
or even from the right and left side. I feel like he's a little bit like his approach is a lot more. He's more swing happy from the right side.
Yeah.
So
for what it's worth, really quickly, he also sucks with the bases empty. So
well, you know what? This past weekend, our team seems to have really sucked with the bases loaded too. So I don't even want to talk about that. I do want to give a shout out to a friend of the podcast, Patrick Wisdom, who was very narrowly close to getting a hold of 4 or 5 pitches over the entire weekend.
Yeah.
Like on a summer day, those are gone.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Yeah. Wiz should have been in there over Cooper yesterday. For sure.
Every single one, I was like, what the, like, he just the worst luck, but like almost every single one he got a hold of. It was good.
Well, we'll end there because we could talk for hours. We could talk about Morel and Bellinger. Belly's getting hot, Morel's getting cold. We could go there. There's a ton in this team topics we can talk about. We'll save a little bit. Hopefully things change for the better as we play Houston, tough team, and then go to Boston this week. So we'll be back at it next week, breaking things down, the highs and lows of this team and riding this team because it is a fun team. Like even in these tough losses, should we have taken 3 of 4 or 4 of 4 from the Marlins? Yes, those games were winnable games, and we should have beat a pretty poor Marlins team.
Yeah.
Is it the end of the world? No. Like we've shown that we've played actually pretty good ball against some good quality opponents this April. And so we just have to keep doing that against those good teams because really like we just have to get through the All-Star break. Like it's a tough first half. We get past that. I think we're pretty golden the second half. So
yeah,
it's going to be fun. It's going to be fun. All right. That does it for episode 152 of the Dingers podcast. Make sure you're subscribed to On Tap Sports Network YouTube. That's where we are live every Monday night, as well as checking out the Cubs on Tap guys. They're our friends at On Tap Sports Network. So go check out ontapsportsnetwork.com where you can get all the news, Chicago sports news. So thanks for listening and go Cubs.
Go Cubs.
Go Cubbies.